All right, and we are back. And today we're back with a part 3 to the Christian Denominations Family Tree series by Useful Charts. Um, Everyone who watches these videos, I do want to thank you. These videos are, I love doing these. I love doing them on Sundays. This one may come out a little bit late, just because I had quite a few other things to do during the weekend as far as the YouTube videos, but I want to make sure this comes out on Sunday. So this is going to be a high priority for me. So guys, if you want to keep following along and make this a high priority in your life, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also remember, if you don't, YouTube will come in here and they will. Let's go ahead and watch episode 3. Anglicans, Lutherans, and Reformed? I may have said that incorrectly, guys. This is episode 3 of the Christian Denominations Family Tree series.
Hi, this is Matt Baker. Welcome to episode 3 in my series on the family tree of Christian denominations. So far in this series, we've looked at the origins of Christianity, as well as its 4 oldest branches: Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, Oriental Orthodoxy, and the Church of the East. From this point forward, we're now going to shift the focus toward Protestants. We'll start by looking at 3 of the earliest branches of Protestantism: Lutheranism, Anglicanism, and Reformed, all of which arose during the period known as the Reformation. And once again, I'm collabing with Joshua from Ready to Harvest. He has prepared a video comparing these 3 denominations in more detail, along with an even older Protestant group known as the Moravian.
Well, you guys hit the like goal for the last video that actually hit, so I can actually watch the Ready to Harvest. So these will both be coming out the same day, by the way. Spoiler alert. But how about we set another like goal? Let's get 15 likes this time, and I will do the second Ready to Harvest video. What's the difference between Christian denominations? This actually seems pretty cool. So guys, keep hitting the like goal. We're trying to get 15.
Be sure to check out his by clicking on the link in the description or pinned comment. Now, one thing I want to point out is that if you're watching this video during the first half of 2023, the chart that I'm showing you is not yet available from our store. That's because I'm basically building it as I go, and I sometimes make changes based on comments that I get. However, the goal is that by the time the series is finished, you will be able to buy the completed chart as a poster.
Guys, should I buy the chart as a poster once I'm done with the series and then put it on the back? Because I don't really have too much of a background here. But a Useful Charts chart would seem pretty cool, I think once I'm done with the series, I'm going to go ahead and try to get one of these. Hey, Useful Charts, if you're listening, you could always sponsor. No. I'm not going to ask Useful Charts to give me a free one. But Useful Charts, if you want to give me a free one, I would appreciate it. And I would tell everybody how cool you are. Like, this guy's super cool. If you meet him, tell him how cool he is. But, that's not me asking for one. That's me throwing a suggestion out there because I'm such a great reactor.
So let me begin by showing you a few changes that I made based on comments I received on episode 2.
Changes?
Last time, I incorrectly stated that the Maronite Catholics, Coptic Catholics, and Syriac Catholics all broke away from the Eastern Orthodox Church. The Maronites were actually independent and became affiliated with Rome during the 1100s after the First Crusade. And the Coptic and Syriac Catholics, they broke away from the Oriental Orthodox Patriarchates, not the Eastern Orthodox Patriarchates. Also, I previously had the Georgian Orthodox Church stemming from the Russian Orthodox Church, which is kind of true because eventually they did fall under their jurisdiction for a while. However, they also have very deep roots, going all the way back to the year 1010. So I've changed their position to indicate that origin instead. Also note that I've added dates throughout the chart in order to make the timeline of each church's independence more clear. Finally, I added the Old Believers, who broke away from the Russian Orthodox Church in 1666 because they did not like certain reforms that were made at that time. Okay, let's now talk about the Protestant Reformation, which is usually said to have started in the year 1517. This was...
Wait. Protestant Reformation. Let me take a deep dive into my brain cavity here. Martin Luther. Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation, right? He did like the 99 reasons of like why he didn't mess with like Catholicism or something. Like somebody in those comments inform me, keep me educated.
This is the year that the German priest Martin Luther published his 95 Theses, in which he challenged the Catholic Church on several issues. However, it can be argued that there were actually Protestants before this date, or at least proto-Protestants. A good example are the Waldensians, named after Peter Waldo, who lived in the 12th century. The Waldensians lived...
Hey guys, where's Waldo?
A life of
I promise I won't do that a lot.
Poverty, and believed that anyone could preach from the Bible, not just priests. There are actually still Waldensian churches today, mostly in Italy, although nowadays they can be seen as being part of the Reformed branch of Protestantism. Another group of proto-Protestants were the Hussites, named after Jan Hus, who lived about 100 years before Luther. He sparked the Bohemian Reformation in what is today the Czech Republic. Out of this movement grew the Moravian Church, which operated underground for many decades in Moravia before moving to Germany and then spreading to the US. It too still exists to this day and has since adopted certain features of Lutheran pietism. But originally, neither the Waldensians nor the Moravians were large enough to change the religious landscape of Europe. That didn't happen until the 1500s, when people like Luther and Calvin arrived on the scene. Now, the first thing you need to know about the Protestant Reformation was that it was not a single united movement. Instead, it was a bunch of movements occurring in different places and in different ways. However, overall, we can say that the Reformation created three initial branches of Protestantism: Lutheran, Anglican, and Reformed. All three resulted in the creation...
I'll be honest, I didn't know what Anglican was, and I didn't know that there were... I didn't know about this stuff, guys. I didn't know about the multiple branches of Protestants. I've heard of Lutherans before. I did a video before. The video that actually got me into making these videos that actually talked about Anglicans and Reformed, I'm just not familiar with. So I have a feeling I'm going to find out that I am like part of one of these and I didn't even know it or something. Like, this is going to be ridiculous.
Of new state-level churches, which shared authority with secular rulers. There was also a fourth branch, the Anabaptists, associated with what's been called the Radical Reformation. They are quite different, though, so I'll be covering them separately in a later video. So let's start with the Lutherans, who obviously get their name from Martin Luther. 4 years after Luther published his 95 Theses, the Catholic Church declared him to...
It was 95, guys.
...to be a heretic and put a ban on sharing his ideas. Those ideas can be summed up with the phrases sola fide and sola scriptura. Sola fide means by faith alone. You see, Luther was angry that certain Catholic priests were abusing something called indulgences. Basically, if you or a relative had committed a bad sin, you could just pay money to the church and get a special certificate that said, if you do such and such a good deed, your punishment in the afterlife will be reduced. Protestants argue that the only thing that makes a person right with God is having faith in Jesus, not doing good works. Sola scriptura means by scripture alone. According to Protestants, the Bible is the ultimate authority, not the Pope or the Church or anyone else. So like I said, Luther was made an outcast, and at first it looked likely that the Church would find some way to have him killed. However, one of the main German
Why would okay, guy wouldn't killing him be like against the church doctrine as well? Like, I don't think we're supposed to be killing people, even if we don't agree with what they're saying. Like, even if they're spouting out things that we don't agree with, I don't think getting them killed as the like, especially as members of the church, like going out and personally making sure that like you're paying money or whatever, you're getting somebody killed. That sounds morally wrong. The whole, I don't know which group started the whole "what would Jesus do" thing, but I feel like he wouldn't do that.
princes offered him protection, and then several other German princes supported his ideas as well. You see, you have to realize that there was no such thing as a united Germany at the time. Instead, the whole area consisted of a bunch of mostly independent states that formed a loose union called the Holy Roman Empire. So what happened was that some states adopted Luther's ideas and some did not, starting around 1521. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that the new Protestant states did not shut down all the Catholic churches and open new Lutheran ones. Priests and churches that were previously Catholic simply became Lutheran, and more reforms and changes were implemented over time. Two of the earliest German states to embrace Lutheranism were Saxony and Hesse. They eventually formed a military alliance called the Schmalkaldic League to defend themselves against the Catholic Emperor. During the 1530s, the three main Scandinavian countries, Denmark, Sweden, and Norway, aligned themselves with Lutheranism as well, cutting ties with the papacy and creating state churches instead. To this day, these three churches are still the largest churches in their respective countries, although the only one that is still an official state church is the Church of Denmark.
All right, guys. Here's the part of the video where some of you guys really enjoy, and that's actually one of my favorite parts of the video as well. This is going to be the very first of the judging of the symbols here. Now, again, I'm not judging them in ways that are negative. I'm just saying this is more which are my favorites so far. Now, because we do still show this Moravian one, I will also be including that one, and I will make it first as by saying I do not really enjoy it. It is cool a little bit, but it is a little plain. I saw it earlier, and I was like, it could be better. Now, Church of Sweden. Shout out to Church of Sweden. I will say it doesn't hit me as far as Christianity. Like, if somebody told me that this was, like, again, if I was like a kid or something, and this was just like the royal Swedish symbol, I would 100% believe them. I'd be like, oh yeah, that's just the symbol for the king and queen of Sweden. I don't even know if they have a king or queen. I don't know if they have a president or a dictator. I don't know. I'm in America, guys. World history is literally what happened that started America for us, and we don't really. They didn't really teach us everything about everybody else, unfortunately. Church of Denmark. I like this one. It's like a collective of little things coming together. I feel like I see little crosses in there and little hearts, and they're all making this big cross. This feels modern. This feels like something that they would have made like in the 2000s or something. So if they were using this symbol in 1536, shout outs to them. They were ahead of the game. They were like 10 steps ahead of where everybody else was going. Now, Church of Norway. I like this one. This feels like something that they'd have on their actual shields to defend themselves, which again, they apparently they had a little bit of an army to defend themselves. This would have been the symbol I chose if I was in that army. This looks cool. It's like, yeah, I'm with the cross. I got the Christianity part, but also there's axes here. So we ain't afraid to use them. If something comes up, I keep that thing on me. This is what this means here. I always keep it on me. but also the color is cool. I like these little areas here. I'm messing with this one, but so far I like this one, the Church of Denmark, because of how, like, again, it looks more modern. Like they made it like within my lifetime. If you told me this was like something that they just made in the 90s or something, I would have been like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But if you're telling me I'm going off the assumption that this is from 1536. That's pretty cool.
Now, if we zoom forward about 300 years to the time just after Napoleon's defeat, we get the formation of the Prussian Union of Churches in 1817. At this point, Prussia, which was Lutheran, was now the dominant German state, and it ended up annexing a bunch of smaller German states, some of which had been Calvinist, which we'll be discussing in a bit. So basically, the Lutheran churches and the Calvinist churches were merged together to form a single denomination. Now, not everyone was happy about this, especially on the Lutheran side, because some felt that their beliefs were going to have to be watered down in order to accommodate the Calvinists. So during the remainder of the 1800s, there was a quite large migration of German Lutherans to the American Midwest. Initially, there were dozens of different Lutheran councils and synods in the US, some Danish, some Swedish, some Norwegian, and some German. But over time, the various church groups merged so that by the 1960s, there were just three major Lutheran denominations: the American Lutheran Church, the Lutheran Church in America, and the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. However, during the 1970s, a controversy arose within the Missouri Synod that involved their seminary, a seminary being a place that trains clergy. Basically, the church felt that the school was becoming too liberal, so the president of the church had the president of the school fired. This led to the creation of Seminix, meaning seminary in exile, as well as a new denomination called the AELC, standing for the Association of Evangelical Lutheran Churches. But then, during the 1980s, the AELC merged with the ALC and LCA to form the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. So nowadays, there are two main Lutheran denominations in the U.S. There's the more conservative Lutheran Church Missouri Synod and the more liberal Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, which to many people is a bit confusing, because in the U.S., the word evangelical is generally associated with conservatives. However, in a Lutheran context, it simply means Protestant. So,
All right, guys. So I guess there's two things I want to say about this. The first one is America is hilarious. Like I will say this. There's, no matter what you do, no matter what group you're in, there's always going to be a group of people who think you're being too liberal, and there's always going to be a group of people who think you're being too conservative. It doesn't matter how liberal or conservative you are. You could be the most conservative Christian group out there. Somebody will come up to you and say, nah, what you guys said 2 Wednesdays ago, 2 Sundays ago, that was super liberal preaching. You guys said we're all brothers, but you know what? We're not. That's too liberal of talking there. There's also going to be somebody over there saying the exact opposite, of saying, like, you guys are too conservative. We're supposed to be a liberal area, and you won't let me come in here without wearing no shirt and no shoes. Like, what's going on here? Like, how come I can't come into this church just wearing swim trunks? That's crazy. It's supposed to be accepting of everyone. You need to be more liberal. So I feel like this may not just be an American thing, but the call out of it, and to actually separate your church over being too liberal or being too conservative, is a super American thing. Now, the second thing I wanted to do was talk about these symbols, because I gotta say, between these two, I'm messing with this one here a little bit more. This Lutheran Church, Missouri. Um, Something about it is just hitting a little bit better to me. Now, I think it's just because of the like the additional, like the one, two, and then three crosses on top of each other. But also, they're not like your traditional cross. They're kind of like a designed cross, which I think is cool. This one reminds me of some like program you'd have in your school, uh, that was to like anti-bullying program. This reminds me of like not Dare, but there was another one where it was like they had kids go around. They all wear the same shirts. It had like a bunch of like kids holding hands around the planet. It's giving me those vibes where like we're gonna stop you from bullying kids during school hours. And even though he hasn't talked about it, and I really wanted to wait till he fully talked about it to go over it, I'm liking this one here. This one, it just hits good. Like it's just a good looking cross. Like I'm sorry, guys. Like I like the little things on the back. I actually love this cross design. It just stands out. It looks like you know, it looks solid. It looks like it's like a sturdy cross symbol there. I like it. Between these two, if this cross was having like these three background things here, this would be it would be a great combination. Like, you know, those two should think about like they should think about combining cross like symbols. I don't know if anybody's doing that at least. But yeah, this one's cool. I'm not saying it's bad, but it does look like one of those things where like if you're at like the an event like a zoo or a park or something on like Earth Day, this is what they'd give out as free T-shirts for Earth Day. But yeah, on to the video.
Just keep that in mind. Now, there is a third Lutheran denomination in the U.S. known as the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod, but it's quite a bit smaller than the other two. Generally speaking, it's even more conservative than the Missouri Synod.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
back to the Lutherans in...
Well, shout outs to Wisconsin. You guys, do they do like, instead of bread, do they do cheese? Okay, that was a horrible joke, but, maybe there is a church that does cheese communion.
Germany. During World War II, the majority of the Prussian churches
Ooh.
supported the Nazis, due in large part to a movement known simply as German Christians. Martin Luther himself had been very anti-Semitic, so it wasn't hard for the German Christians to use his writings to support their cause. However, not all Lutherans in Germany were pro-Nazi. The Lutherans who opposed Hitler, led by Dietrich Bonhoeffer and others, eventually broke away and formed the Confessing Church, although Bonhoeffer himself was eventually captured and sent to a concentration camp, where he was later executed shortly before the end of the war.
Well, shout outs to the confessing church. You guys were fighting against actual oppression in the middle of oppression. There's no reason that like you should be able to justify what the Nazis did, especially trying to use Christianity. That's ridiculous in so many ways that like even if you don't believe in like what Judaism stands for or like, whatever it is, there are people at the end of the day, and you doing that or trying to justify what the Nazis did to those people, it's against everything I've ever known about Christianity, Jesus, the Bible, the church, everything I've ever stood for in my life. And if you guys could justify that and find out a way to do it, then I don't know what to say. I feel like that would have been the point where I was like, yeah, I'm out of this church. I'm out of this whole thing, and we're doing our own thing here. So again, shout out to the Confessing Church. You guys were, I don't know if they're still around or anything like that, but that sounds incredible. It seems like they're going to, link it back up soon or something. But I just want to make sure we get a special moment to say, these guys, what they were doing during World War II in Germany, going against the Nazis and Hitler, should be commended, because that is something that it took a lot of bravery, took a lot of just like faith and conviction in what you stand for. So shout outs to them.
After the war, the Prussian church was reunited and purged of Nazi supporters. In 1948, several other German state churches joined together to form the Evangelical Church in Germany, or EKD. Initially, the Prussian church, now known as the Evangelical Church of the Union, remained separate, but in 2004 it joined the EKD as well. Today, the EKD, which consists of both Lutherans and Calvinists, is the largest Protestant denomination in continental Europe. The second largest Lutheran denomination worldwide is actually the Makane Jesus Church in Ethiopia, which was founded by Swedish missionaries. Let's now look at the Anglicans. First of all, I should mention that some people don't actually consider Anglicans to be Protestants. They actually see them as being a sort of middle position instead, between Catholicism and Protestantism. This is because on the surface, their overall structure and traditions often look a lot like Catholicism. And when it comes to their beliefs, they don't really have a founding theologian, such as Luther or Calvin. But considering that the Anglicans split from Rome around the same time as the Lutheran and Reformed branches, I think it is fair to say that they are indeed a type of Protestantism. Now, the main church in this branch was and still is the Church of England. You're probably familiar with the story of King Henry VIII and his 6 wives, and how he argued with the Pope over whether or not he could get out of his first marriage, because it had not resulted in a son. Because the Pope would not help him, Henry decided to break ties with the Catholic Church and have himself declared the head of the church in his country instead. This occurred in 1534, and hence that's the date that's usually given for the birth of the Church of England. Now,
Guys, is that not hilarious though? Like, that's kind of funny. Where guys like, yo, my wife isn't giving me a son, I want to get a divorce. The Catholic Church is like, sorry, you can't just get a divorce just because your like wife isn't producing like boys. Like, that's not how this works. That's a little bad. And then he's like, psh, what? I can't get divorced? Psh, bet. Okay. Church of England. Yeah, it's similar, but you know what? You can get divorced. Causal reasons for divorce. Your wife didn't have a son, and you're the king of England. Number one, granted immediately, because you know what? Church of England. I'm the king of England, so I get the divorce that I want immediately, and problem solved.
Again, I want to point out that it's not as if all the Catholic churches in England were simply shut down in 1534 or that new Anglican ones were established. Not at all. The same churches and the same priests actually just continued on as usual. The only difference was that they no longer reported to the Pope. For a long time, the most senior Catholic bishop in England had been the Archbishop of Canterbury. Therefore, when the Church of England broke away from Rome, the Archbishop of Canterbury became the new spiritual leader of the church. Currently, that person is Justin Welby. But please note, the Archbishop of Canterbury is by no means the Pope of the Anglican Church. Like the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople, he's more of a first among equals. The actual head of the Church of England is whoever the monarch of the United Kingdom is. So currently, that person is Charles III. Now, at the time that the Church of England...
I haven't heard great things about the current monarchy in England. I've heard some bad things. I've heard some things that make me want to be like, whoa, these guys should not be around schools or children. But that's just what I've heard. Those are just the rumors. I don't know if there's any truth to them. I'm not in England. I'm not royalty that I am aware of. So I would just say these are things that I've heard, not things that I know for a fact. That just sounds, from based off what I've heard, that may not be the best decision.
Broke away. The King of England was also the King of Ireland. So around the same time, the Church of Ireland came under the control of the English king as well. But unlike in England, most of the Irish remained loyal to the Pope. So what happened was that from 1536 to 1869, The Anglican Church of Ireland was the state church, even though Protestantism was the minority religion. Nowadays, most of Ireland is a republic, and there's no state church, and most of the Irish are still Catholics. Wales, by the 1500s, was simply a part of England, so they came under the Church of England. Although I should point out that in 1920, an independent church in Wales was formed. When it comes to Scotland, well, that's actually a whole other story, which we'll get to in a bit. Now, as the English started to develop colonies all over the world, they took Anglicanism with them. Initially, churches in colonies were simply part.
Okay. Before we go too far in here, I do have to say I'm liking the Church of Ireland symbol way more than I'm liking the Church of England. Nothing wrong with it. And actually, I'm just now noticing that they put a big old E in there as well from the cross. It like makes the cross and then it forms into an E. That definitely seems like I don't know. It's imaginative. It is cool, but I don't enjoy it, especially if I'm comparing it to this one, which isn't really giving me like. You could tell me that this wasn't Christian and I'd still believe it, but I think it's just between the color and the look of it. I've always just been a fan of kind of like these type of looks. I think it's cool. This gives me the vibe of that young preacher that has a guitar. This is like the thing he would have for his symbol. Like if there's a young preacher out there, he wears like jeans and a flannel, and he has a guitar and he's teaching you about like God and religion. This is the symbol he'd have. So like it's not terrible. This one here, it's a little bit plain. A little plain. I like this one. This one gives me like it's kind of giving me almost like a police badge look, but I don't know. There's something, I think it's just the color and the pattern that's really getting me. I can't put a finger on why I like this one as much, but something about this one really hits. This looks so freaking Canadian, it's ridiculous. Like, come on, guys. You have to put the maple leaves in here. The maple leaves, guys. That is hilarious. You guys are so freaking Canadian. This is the most Canadian thing I've ever seen that is religious at the same time. This is like when you're in church and you have to say a boot all the time, because that is what church is all about. Let's see, Australia. I guess this is pretty Australian too, but this don't feel as Australian as this does Canadian, if that makes sense. Like, this is the most Canadian thing I've seen. This is just typical Australian behavior. Like, it could use a little bit more as far as the Christianity part, which this cross is like there, and then they got their symbols there. Again, I just want to talk more stuff about the Canada because this is hilarious to me. But seriously, you guys put maple leaves. You put actual maple leaves in the church symbol. Ayo, Canada. Like, come on, Canada. That's hilarious.
Anglicanism with them. Initially, churches in colonies were simply part of the Church of England, but over time they gained independence. Of special note...
Okay. Anglican Church in North America... it's not my fave. I'll be honest. You could change this up. You could have switched this up to be a little bit better. Maybe have the North America on here, or I don't know, have a cross within here or something, like something different. This is just two different things that they put together for real. I like this one. It's pretty like traditionally religious. Like, this feels traditional to me. This is cool. This one, it's hard to read. I'll be honest. I'm not like the biggest fan of this one here. Like, I'm sure if it's more close up or in more detail, it'll be better. But as far as what I can tell now, like, I don't even know what this is up here. Like, there's a whole thing up here. I can't read what it is. Like, I can't. It doesn't look like. I'm not talking about the words. I'm talking about this actual thing here. I don't know what that is. It looks kind of like. I'll be honest. It kind of looks like a figure of like a weird baby or something. And then this here, like this part is cool, but it's hard. This is just so hard to read that I can't say that it's up there for me.
Is the Episcopal Church in the USA. Basically, when the American colonies split away from Great Britain, the Anglican Church there split away as well, becoming known as the Episcopal Church. Episcopal meaning led by bishops. Over time, the Anglican churches in
Guys, I never knew what Episcopal meant. Like I never knew what that meant. So shout outs to him for explaining that to me just
South
now.
Africa, Canada, Australia, etc., became independent as well. So that today, rather than just the Church of England, there are now 42 autonomous churches
Jeez.
that together form the Anglican Communion. After the Church of England, the two largest are actually the Church of Nigeria and the Church of Uganda. And I should note that altogether, the Anglican Communion is currently the third largest division within Christianity, the largest being Catholicism and the second largest being Eastern Orthodoxy.
Okay.
However, that might be about to change because it looks as though the Anglican Communion is on the verge of splitting in two. The reason is that most of the leadership in the Western churches, in places like the UK, US, Canada, and Australia, support blessings for same-sex couples, whereas most of the leadership in the rest of the world do not. So, for example, the Church of Uganda and the Church of Nigeria are part of an organization called the Global South Fellowship of Anglican Churches. Just a few weeks ago, in February of 2023, they voted to no longer recognize the Archbishop of Canterbury as their spiritual leader. So, it's yet to be seen whether the Global South Fellowship will leave the Anglican Communion altogether or whether some other resolution will occur. And
Guys, can we not do this? Like, I don't know. It just feels like something we could avoid altogether. It's now, don't split off because of this. I am going to state right now that I am like, I do believe gay people can get married, you know. Come at me in the comments, whatever you say. It's just, it doesn't, you know, it is what it is. You know, if you guys don't believe in it, then, you know, you don't believe in it. But is that a real reason to separate and like separate the churches even more? Like the church is so already separated. We're so far back from where we used to be one holy church. You're gonna keep splitting that off, and like pretty soon, like each individual person's gonna have their own Christian group. And you know what? I'm gonna be there to judge the symbols, and I'm gonna tell you right now, some of them are gonna be better than others.
And I should point out that there are even some conservative Anglicans in the West who are also not happy with the current communion either. So, for example, some churches belonging to the Episcopal Church and the Anglican Church of Canada have split away to form the Anglican Church in North America, which is in communion with the Global South Fellowship, but not with Canterbury. Okay, let's now look at the Reformed branch, which is strongly associated with the French theologian John Calvin. In fact, the word Reformed is often used interchangeably with Calvinist. Now, most people associate Calvinism with its purest form, also called five-point Calvinism, and often summarized by using the acronym TULIP. However, I want to point out that there are actually several different versions of Calvinism, and that not all Calvinists hold strictly to the 5 points. Generally speaking, the main difference between Calvinism and other forms of Christian theology is that Calvinists believe in some sort of predestination, meaning that some people are destined for salvation and some people are not.
Oh, wow.
But in this video, we're mostly concerned with denominations, not theology. So let's now look at the Reformed tree. Although the Reformed movement started in Switzerland, one of the main places where it really took hold was in the Netherlands. In 1571, the Dutch Reformed Church was established, and for over 400 years, it was the main Protestant church in the lowlands, also spreading to other countries wherever Dutch settlers traveled, such as South Africa. In 1892, there was a major schism in the Dutch Reformed Church, resulting in the creation of the Reformed churches in the Netherlands. However, in 2004, they merged back together with the main church, along with a few Dutch Lutherans, to form the Protestant Church in the Netherlands. In France, those who embraced Calvinism became known as Huguenots. However, in France, Protestants remained the minority and were often persecuted. They do still exist, though, and most of them now belong to a denomination called the United Protestant Church of France. Which brings us to the Church of Scotland, which ended up following a very different path than that of the Church of England. There, a theologian named John Knox led Scotland to embrace Calvinism, as well as a type of church government in which groups of presbyters or elders make decisions. Thus, this branch of Reformed Christianity became known as Presbyterianism. It spread to Ireland and then...
Hey, I did not know that. This is pretty cool. So the Reformed, one branch of the Reformed group of Christianity is Presbyterians. So, guys, you already know what time it is. I do enjoy this one. It's simple. And it does remind me of Sweden. Or Switzerland. It gives me a Switzerland vibe. Just looking at like a flag of Switzerland. Church of Scotland. This one is so much like Scotland. It's just the Scottish flag with the burning bush on it. That's interesting because the colors are super cool to me, and I like the burning bush detail in the beginning. It's like, even though it's plain, I like this one. United Protestant Church of France. Now, you guys were being very creative and imaginative with this one. I wouldn't even know this was a Christian thing. I would think this is just part of an art exhibit here. Like it looks more like modern art, which I will say I'm more of a classical art guy myself, where, you draw a nice face and it looks like a nice face, or you draw something and it looks like photography. Like, that's my type of art, but I appreciate modern art and modern artists of what they're able to do and the concepts they're able to pull. Now, with that being said, this is not one of my favorites. It's interesting to look at, but it's just so far derived from like what I would think of like seeing a symbol that represents Christianity or anything. Like, there is a cross in here, but if you weren't looking for it, I don't know if you'd always see it. You know what I mean? Like, if this was just like the symbol for like an art gallery, that'd be, even if I just saw this at an art gallery, I'd be like, oh yeah, that is something. Now, Reformed Church of Hungary. This one looks cool. I will say it's a lot going on there. A little hard to read. But from what I can see, there's like an eagle or something up here. There's stuff going on. I like the colors, at least. I like what I see of it. I wish this was easier to read. I wish they made this one a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit easier to read from a distance. That would really make it number one. But personally, it's got to be between, honestly, it's probably the Church of Scotland. This one's cool. It's classic, nice little thing there. But this one, it's different. It hits a little different. That's all I'll say.
Also to the American colonies, where eventually the Presbyterian Church of the USA was formed. Because of the nature of Presbyterian church governance, there were a lot of splits and mergers within American Presbyterianism. I won't show most of them. However, I do want to point out that because of the U.S. Civil War, the church was pretty much split in two in 1861, resulting in a new Southern-based denomination called the PCUS. That division stayed in place until 1983, when the two parts were merged back together to form the Presbyterian Church USA. However, a decade before the merger, a group of conservatives split away from the PCUS to form the Presbyterian Church in America. Another type of Christianity that is
That is so hilarious that like this is the group that was completely for like the the South seceded and everything. A little bit more of a conservative group during that time for the Civil War era. But then they were like, you know what? Not conservative enough. Let's make this one here because you guys are over here trying to, you're getting too liberal. These are the people that are too liberal, so they're coming over here to this super, what I imagine is the liberal Presbyterian Church versus the conservative Presbyterian Church. Since we're here, guys, I will do it now, even though I'd rather wait till you talked about these a little bit more. But it's just judging off the look of the symbol. This one is cool. I will say, I wish these were solid lines. I feel like that'd be better. Like the lines in here kind of, I don't know, they're kind of throwing me off. I like this one, the PCA. This is nice. It's like the cross and then the book. I wish this one was a little bit fancier, and this one for the Presbyterian Church was a little bit more relaxed. Like if these two could figure out a way to come together, they could make a really good symbol. United Church of Christ. Shout outs to my church because I grew up going to one of those, the Cleveland Church of Christ. So this may be connected. I will find out in a second. This one does not give me too much Christianity vibes. This gives me more like waterbender. Like if anybody shout outs to Avatar, if anybody's familiar with that, this seems like it would be some type of not like main waterbender tribe, but like an offshoot of some type of waterbender tribe symbol. This one is just water. I don't know. This one here, this is pretty cool. Now, I will say this also gives me vibes of like, what's the symbol that like Harry Potter fans always have? Is this not it? Do they just add a circle to this and that's the Harry Potter tattoo that people always have? Are Harry Potter fans just all Christian, part of the Christian Reformed Church? Harry Potter fans, Christians, let me know. Are you guys in the same group? Who took what from who? Did Harry Potter fans see this and was like, add a circle, there you go? Or did these guys see the Harry Potter fans and were like, no, this will look better for us? Protestant Church of the Netherlands, shout outs to you guys. This is very cool. I don't think people would even be able to redo this on all the things. Like this is cool. This is a like highlighted bird here. Like it looked like they made it looked like they made this in 2004. I don't know if they made this in 2004 that says 2004 merger, but this looks like something somebody made on a computer. This looks computer generated, guys. Like I don't think that they made this by hand. This is cool, but I don't know. This is computer generated. I give these a little bit more credit because I feel like a person drew all of these. This one it felt like it's a little bit more like, I can't give it as much credit because it feels like it was made by a literal computer.
Associated with Calvinism is Congregationalism. In the next episode, we'll be looking at the English Puritans and Separatists, who were among the first Europeans to settle in America. They had a theology similar to the Presbyterians, but had an even more democratic form of church governance. Basically, in Congregationalism, every local church is independent and can make its own decisions. Several of the early American colonies had Congregationalism as their official state religion, including Massachusetts, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. In fact, 3 famous Ivy League schools, Harvard, Yale, and Dartmouth, were all founded by Congregationalists.
Oh,
Over
wow.
time, though, other denominations eclipsed Congregationalism in the US, so that nowadays it's actually one of the lesser known branches of Protestantism. In 1957, the largest Congregationalist denomination merged with the ENR Church, which was a mixed Lutheran Reformed church, to form the United Church of Christ. Okay, so that's where we're going to end this episode. In about 3 weeks' time, I'll be releasing episode 4, in which we'll mostly be looking at the Anabaptists and Baptists, two groups with similar names but very different histories. For now, I encourage you to check out the video by Ready to Harvest, in which he dives deeper into some of the differences between Moravians, Lutherans, Anglicans, and Reformed. Thanks for watching.
Guys, another great video by Useful Charts. And again, if you want to see me do the other video about the Lutherans and Angelics and the Ready to Harvest video, please get this up to 15 likes. That would be really dope, really cool of you guys. You got the last one up. You know, you hit the 10 like goal. Now it's time to hit the 15 like goal, you know, which means if you need to create a second account just to subscribe and hit that like button again, do it. You know, we're treating this like the Catholic Church. We're separating this into as many groups as possible in order to hit that like goal. So yeah, if you need to separate yourself into a smaller denominational version of yourself, then do that so we can hit this goal. But no, seriously guys, I really do appreciate anybody who's watching these videos. This is the part where I'm literally just rambling on and saying pretty much anything that comes to my head. So, you know, it's very much appreciated that you guys are following along on this this journey. It's been 3 episodes so far, and each one of these have been getting support from you guys. You guys have been liking them, you've been commenting, you've been, you know, watching them. It's a good community that I'm gathering up here with these videos. And even though, again, this may not be the same type of content that I make like Monday through Fridays or any other type of videos, it's because I myself am diverse in how I feel about life in general. So, like, I'm not always just gonna be like, oh, this is a Christian channel or this is a video for religious content or whatever. This is a channel that has religious content on it. It's going to have non-religious content on it. And it's going to have me being me, representing myself and like giving you my perspective on it the entire time. So whether it's a video that goes about religious topics or something that goes just with, you know, a Mr. Ballin video is talking about, you know, weird, you know, spooky stories or like sports or music videos or whatever it is, it's because just like, you know, each and every one of us, we're not just one thing in our lives. And I'm not just, you know, I don't just think one specific way and only think about one topic all day. I think about a lot of different topics. I think about a lot of different things. I have different perspectives on different things. You know, some of them are more conservative, you know, viewpoints. Some of them are more liberal viewpoints on things. It depends on what that subject matter is. You know, so, and that's how my channel is. My channel is going to be diverse. It's going to have different subjects. It's going to have different topics. There's going to be something for different people. So if every video doesn't hit, you know, I'm sorry. But hey, maybe you may come in here for a Christian video, leave out of here watching a Mr. Ballin video. You never know. But yeah, with that being said, shout outs to all of you guys. I really do appreciate anyone who watches this far and is here at that. And as always, bye.